Gone with the Wind ranks among the most classic films of all time. If you want to talk about achievements the film made with its release in 1939, there's a lot to choose from. It was one of the first major films to be presented in Technicolor, being released the same year as The Wizard of Oz, which also used Technicolor. Up to date, the film sold the most tickets in box office history. It won 10 Academy Awards out of 13 nominations, including Best Picture, even Best Supporting Actress for Hattie McDaniel, making her the first African American to win an Academy Award, as if the total number of wins and nominations weren't a huge enough achievement at the time. Then, in 1989, about 50 years after its release, it was one of 25 films to be accepted in the National Film Registry. Despite controversies for its depiction of black people, Gone with the Wind really is a huge deal, even to this day. It is a very long film, though. If you count the overture, intermission, entr'acte, and exit music, the film lasts nearly 4 hours. It centers on Scarlett O'Hara, the daughter of a plantation owner in Georgia during the American Civil War. In the first act of the film, her objective is to marry Ashley Wilkes, who is married to his cousin, Melanie Hamilton. But the deadly war soon required Scarlett to head back to her home plantation in Georgia after a Wilkes visitor from Charleston named Rhett Butler goes off to fight. In the second act, the war is over, and soon Scarlett and Rhett get married. From there, it becomes less of a war film. Scarlett still wants to marry Ashley, as it seems, but by the end of the film, she comes to the realization of who she really loves. This film introduced a classic line.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
One of the earliest swears to be spoken in a motion picture. The producer was fined over this since it violated the Hays Code, or Motion Picture Production Code. But the film was still released with this line intact, and it ranks among the most famous movie quotes of all time. Of course, that would mean it was subject to pop culture reference in other films and TV shows.
Frankly, Scarlett, I don't give a damn.
But that's what happens when something gets famous. Just about everyone in the world is gonna want to replicate it. Whether it's a war film during the Civil War period or a drama set in the Reconstruction era, the film has emotion written all over it. Of course, since it's a historical film set during a time of war, you'd have to expect emotion. However, even then, for me personally, watching a film released in 1939, it caught me off guard how tragic the film can really get. I don't want to give anything away, but some of the deaths in this film are just depressing to think about for the fact that they even happened to these specific characters. It all seems like everything's working to make life more miserable for poor Scarlett. It doesn't help that the man she's been trying so desperately to marry had to enter the battlefield. This is a character you root for, even though she has the tendency to act like a brat. The performances really help the situation. Vivien Leigh as Scarlett, and especially Clark Gable as Rhett. Part of the reason for the troubled production the film went through was because producer David Selznick was determined to make sure Clark Gable played Rhett. It was worth the wait, though. He's a great actor who has a way with words. The actors are so believable with their characters, it really immerses you into the environment. You really feel like you're watching real people living through the tragedies brought about by the American Civil War. More than just the casting issue, once you get to know about the fact that the script went through many revisions by many writers just to make sure the film was reduced to a reasonable length, it makes you wonder, is it possible that the film could have been shorter, like simply 3 hours or 2.5? Not to mention, the original director, George Cukor, was fired before filming began, so Victor Fleming took his place. And that's another similarity between this and The Wizard of Oz. They both had the same director. Fun fact, Fleming quickly left production of Oz to replace Cukor for Gone with the Wind. Now that's 2 movies in which Fleming replaced Cukor. Yup, George Cukor replaced Richard Thorpe for Wizard of Oz, then left to work on Gone with the Wind, meaning Fleming took over, and afterward Fleming replaced Cukor for Gone with the Wind. There's actually a lot of connections between both of these films. Both of these films had troubled productions. They ultimately had the same director credited. That director replaced a previous director who was directing for both films. Both were released in 1939. Both utilized Technicolor. Both films attracted controversy, though with Wizard of Oz it was more about abuse Judy Garland endured during production. But with Gone with the Wind it was about the depiction of African Americans. Both films are among the first 25 in the National Film Registry. Both films are among the American Film Institute's top 100 greatest films of all time, not to mention also being in the top 100 movie quotes of all time. Both were adapted from a novel. Both have a young female for a protagonist. Whew! Well, there are obvious differences. Gone with the Wind is more than twice as long. It's an epic historical film instead of a fantasy, and to this day, adjusted for inflation that is the highest grossing film of all time. It is well worthy of that title, one of the all-time classic motion pictures. If I tried to summarize all the good points in this film, we'd be here all day. So, if you haven't seen the film yet, make sure you don't have too busy of a schedule.